Hello everyone, I hope you are having a wonderful day today. It was sort of chilly this morning. I mean, not really super chilly, but you know, chilly enough to where I didn't want to get out of bed this morning. But I had to. Today I wanted to talk to you about thriving in retro. And I know, I can hear it now. What the hell are you talking about, Melissa? It's retro. Don't you know retro sucks? You know, communication is horrible during retro. Technology just fails us during retro. My car starts screwing up during retro. Retro is horrible. And yes, those are aspects that people can experience in retro. And y'all, let's face it, it's pretty well known for that. Even mundanes talk about retro. They're like, you know, had all these issues with my computer at work, and it's retrograde. Things like this happen. And you know that when mundanes pay attention to astrological events like that, even when they don't really believe in those astrological events, that it's a big deal. You know, it affects everyone. And I know some people are like, whatever, it's all in your head. Retro isn't that big of a deal. And I would say, yeah, kinda, it is in your head because it is how you think and perceive retro, but it's not just in your head. Like I said, mundanes wouldn't even be aware of it if it was something that wasn't or didn't have an effect on us as, you know, a whole, as humans in general, not just the magical community. So, how would one go about thriving in retro? I mean, what does that even mean? And honestly, in order to understand that, you really have to kind of understand the purpose of Mercury Retrograde. And it's not just to make our communication and technology a living hell. It has a purpose, you know, and a lot of that purpose involves healing. And I think that's why we balk at it. You know, who wants to go through all that junk? Nobody. You know, change is inevitable and it happens all the time, but whenever it's purposeful change, we tend to kick and drag our feet and say, no, no, no. I don't want to deal with this right now. I just want to do what I want to do. And hey, I'm the same way. You know, I am an earth sign, and the earth doesn't like to be moved around too much unless it's on its own terms. And so, yeah, I sometimes have that point of view myself. Like, I don't want to deal with change, especially when it's kind of shoved in my face. But I have learned that whenever I embrace it, whenever I really examine all the stuff that bubbles up to the surface because of these astrological events like Mercury Retrograde, that I find all the negative aspects aren't so bad. No, and I started doing Thriving in Retro. If you followed my page and my YouTube channel and the Deviant channel, you know that we have discussed Thriving in Retro last Mercury Retrograde, which was like around July, I believe. So after I shift my perception of what Mercury Retrograde is really trying to accomplish, I noticed that it wasn't as bad. I'm not saying that there wasn't challenges and I didn't struggle, but it was different. I had a whole different appreciation for it. So I'm starting that up again during this retrograde. Started on August 30th and ends September 22nd. And honestly, that's when Mercury quits going backwards. It doesn't actually start going forward again in full force until around October 6th. So that's why a lot of people will be like, oh, Mercury retrograde is over, but I'm still having some issues. And that's why, because Mercury, once it actually starts moving forward again, it takes a while, you know, to get to that point. It doesn't happen like instantaneous like we want it to. So that is the current time frame we're looking at here for Mercury Retro. And I would really encourage everyone to try and change their perception of Mercury retrograde. This retrograde has sort of come in quietly. I think that, well, 2016 has just been a year of intensity. You know, intense emotions, intense ups, intense downs. At least for me, it has. I know a lot of the people that I communicate with regularly, it seems to have had the same effect on them. Um, so, like last retrograde was very intense. You know, it sort of stuck with the theme. And this retrograde seemed to have come in a lot smoother, or at least a lot softer. And I do believe that's because, at least for me, all the intense shit happened right before retrograde even hit. And I know that I had several of my friends had communicated with me about the fact, are you sure it's not retro right now? Because I'm feeling that anxiety and that frustration that I usually feel during retro. And so I don't know if it's because of all the eclipses, and eclipses can have crazy effects on astrological events or what, but the weeks preceding retro seemed so much more challenging than retro itself. So at least so far, you know, we have a long time to go. So that could probably, but possibly change. Probably will change, but we'll see. So thriving in retro is about accepting and understanding these emotions and baggage and issues that are bubbling up to the surface for myself. And, you know, I read an article here the other day, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I feel right now. So it's nice to have that little bit of confirmation. But for myself, it's centering around love. My perceptions of love, and not just like relationship love. A lot of times when people say love, everyone automatically thinks of relationships. And that has played a part, no doubt. It has, you know, focused on my relationships, but also love for myself and what I do. You know, the last few months, especially in August, I don't know what it was about August. Maybe it was the heat. I don't know, but August was such a lethargic month for me. I did not want to do anything. I did not enjoy the things I normally enjoy. It was very challenging for me to be motivated. You know, I felt like I was sleeping a lot. I felt just, and even when I wasn't like actually like napping in the daytime, I was just lethargic. I didn't want to do anything. You know, everything seemed like such a task. The most, you know, small little minute things seemed to be such a huge, you know, pushing a boulder up the hill task. And I'm like, why is this so challenging? This is not a challenging ordeal. I should be just going through the stuff. And it just wasn't there. That energy, that I don't know, nothing. I didn't want to do shit. And it wasn't so much as I was unhappy as it was I didn't even have the, you know, capacity to engage in that emotion at all. You know, it wasn't that I was necessarily sad. I mean, it was nothing. It was blank. It was just like a disconnect from everything. So it was interesting and kind of irritating and frustrating. And now that I feel more energetic, now that I feel more like myself, I see that a lot of that stemmed from not really understanding what I enjoyed. What do I love? What do I love about myself? Do I even love myself? You know, all these questions were popping up. And then last night, I had this interesting dream, and I'm not going to go into details because it was kind of intense and private, but it focused around love. and not just, it was, again, it had to do with relationships, but it was more of really understanding the complexity of love. You know, I remember a time when people were really finicky about using the word love. Not so much right now, but I don't know, it was a few years ago, and everyone's like, ah, people say they love everything. It's such an overused word. And of course it is. I mean, it can mean so many different things. Love is so complex. That is why love spells are so challenging. You're looking for certain attributes. It's looking for certain responses and emotional connections, and that's the intense, deep love. That's not even covering, you know, the just appreciation of pleasure kind of love. Like, I love coffee. I have a deep appreciation of the pleasure I get when I drink a good cup of coffee. And at one point in time, people, again, like I said, were very finicky about that. Oh, you don't really love coffee. Well, yeah, actually, I really do. It might not be the same love I have for, you know, my partner, or the same love I have for my child, but it's still a type of love. And I remember thinking about how interesting it was that people were really having this strong emotion towards using the word love. And again, here I find myself again several years down the road really thinking about that, and what does that word really mean to me? You know, is it just about beauty? Of course not. I mean, sure, beauty plays an intricate role in love, but, and a very interesting role in love, but it's not necessarily aesthetic beauty, even though that plays a part. And is it about, you know, a connection? Is it about certain physical and emotional attributes? Or is it about the responses you get from expressing those emotions or having those attributes? You know, what is love about? And to me, that has been my focus for this particular retro. It's just something that's really been on my mind. And you know, love is what makes the world go round. You know, as much as people think, ah, that's such an optimistic, hippy-dippy, you know, fluffy bunny thing to say, truth, though, you know, the greatest, everything can be contributed to love, whether it's the love of money or the love of a person or the love of a place. So many major points in history can be attributed to a type of love. It might not be the type of love that you associate with, you know, but the love of power, the love of having, you know, the love of being on top. So, and people are like, ah, yeah, how can you love power? Well, obviously people do. We see it all the time. You know, how can you love? How can love be associated with something we also associate with, like, evil? You know, you think of power-hungry people, and you think of evil. They're the villains. You know, but in their mind, they're the heroes. So of course they can associate love with that emotion, with that greed, with that want. So anyway, it is very, I'm getting very deep into this and probably shouldn't, but yeah, that's what this retro is bringing up for me. So in order to thrive, I'm going to focus on what all that means and figure out my deeper core beliefs about it, and explore and expand those beliefs and try to get a better understanding of not just my perception, but, you know, the effects of love on the whole. You know, understanding others' perspective and seeing if that relates to me, or if it doesn't. And those are some pretty deep concepts. But and while I'm doing that, I will be making posts throughout the retro period about what I'm discovering and how it's helping me thrive. You know, whether it be pampering myself one day or exploring a different avenue of magic or spell work, or you know, rediscovering a novel that I haven't read in a really long time. And did y'all just see that spider? I've had a lot of spiders around. Anyway, random squirrel moment, sorry. But anyway, it's, you know, posting and talking about things like that, about what is the surface and what I really have to, or feel like I have to deal with. And retro might mean something totally different to you. It might not be about love for you. I mean, like I said, that's seems to be kind of the overall feel for people during this retro. Something that deals with that. Healing in itself can be very closely related to love. It is a lot of times an act of love. So, you know, it's going to be different for everybody. Things are going to change, you know, everyone's going to have a different perception of retro and what they need to do in order to thrive. But I really do challenge you to, instead of balking at retro and kicking at your feet and dragging your heels, to embrace it and see how much of a difference it makes. See if it becomes something completely different and wonderful. The Deviant Witchery channel, which is a channel I contribute to, as well as the Deviant Witch, Michael Blackthorne, we did a tarot show last night about healing, detox, and replenishing. And there should be a little thing pop up around this area that will, a little card, I think they're called, that will link you to that. I'll also put the link in the description below. It is very enlightening, and to me, a great way to, a great message that really helps to thrive in retro. Retro, again, about healing. So whatever this Mercury retrograde is bringing up for you, I strongly encourage you to embrace it, explore it, and figure out what and how it helps. You know, it's how it's going to help you, how it's going to help you grow. You know, as much as we don't like conflict and we don't like looking at our dirty stuff that we might consider to be something, you know, that is best hid away, it can be so helpful and so liberating to explore those areas and see how they affect you. See how they can change you. See how much you grow. See what you can learn from it. And that is how we thrive in retro, y'all. So I look forward to seeing any post or video responses that you may want to do about thriving in retro. I'm going to be using the hashtag thriving in retro on Facebook, and if you want to make comment on this video about ways you feel like you can thrive in retro, or what this retro is bringing up for you, if it's not just too personal, you can definitely generalize and not be specific if you feel like it's pretty personal. But let me know what you think about thriving in retro, and if you would be interested in joining me as we explore this. I plan on trying to do a couple more videos before Mercury retrograde is over, just to go over what how it's affecting me, what I'm doing, certain practices that I'm putting into place. I know that to start out retro, which I meant to do this video yesterday, but we had a funeral to go to, and there's a lot of craziness going on yesterday, so it didn't happen. But anyway, I want to make sure that I just lost my train of thought, y'all. I want to make sure that I got this out here like towards the beginning. So, and I'm going to start the Thriving in Retro post today. So check it out. Look at my Facebook page. It'll be listed in the description below. And let me know what you think, y'all. I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and keep on rocking on, witches. Thanks. Bye.